If a person gives charity, but he does so in a begrudging way, in a way that shows that he doesn't really want to give it, has he fulfilled the mitzvah of giving tzedakah? Has this person, in fact, given charity? That's a good question. And honestly, I'm not entirely sure what the answer is. You see, the Rambam outlines 8 different levels of giving. And his lowest level, the lowest rung on the ladder, is mishum sheyitain lo be'etzev, when a person gives with sadness. Now, what does the Rambam mean? When he says a person gives with sadness, does this mean the person clearly is showing that he is sad, showing that he does not want to be giving this gift? Or does it mean that a person internally is harboring feelings of regret, remorse, and being begrudging? Is he outwardly expressing his feelings, or is he keeping those feelings inside? Some want to argue that the Rambam means that the person is internally feeling sadness. But if a person were to express that sadness, if a person were to show on their faces that they don't want to be giving the gift, that's going to embarrass the recipient. And by doing so, this person is not only not fulfilling the mitzvah of charity, they're actually being over an isser, they are actually transgressing a prohibition. So, according to those opinions, not only would it not be an act of charity, it's actually a negative prohibition that they are transgressing by giving a gift with a sour face. So, again, in the case of the episode, it's not really an act of charity, but it would seem that for Jack to begrudgingly give the pen when he doesn't want to, and then go around telling everybody about how he didn't want to give this pen, but Jerry made him, that is not only not an act of kindness and giving, it's actually a negative thing to do. Jack would have been much better off not giving the pen at all and keeping his mouth shut. But let's continue with the Rambam's 8 levels. So again, the lowest level, let's assume for a second that we're going to go with those opinions. There are other opinions who say that no, what the Rambam means is that even a person who gives begrudgingly, at least they gave something. Giving something is better than not giving. A person should try to give lovingly, should try to give with kindness, but if a person can't, it's better that they give rather than not give at all. So, however you look at it, that's the lowest rung. Above that, we get to rung number 7. Rung number 7 is when a person gives, but not really as much as they should. But they give it with a happy face. They give it with words of encouragement. So perhaps I'm not at a point financially where I can give as much as the person might need, but if I give it with a smile, if I offer words of encouragement, that I've given this person something so valuable, and that is actually a step above the lowest rung. Then we get to rung number 6. Level number 6 is giving, but only after one is asked. This is the case where a person is solicited to give a donation and they give the donation. It's a wonderful thing to do, but it's still not the ideal. Even better yet would be level 5, to give without being asked. There is so much value placed on being able to anticipate the needs of those around us, both those who are less fortunate than us, the poor, but also our friends and our family. How important is it not to wait for someone to ask us for help, but to anticipate those needs and go ahead and take care of them on our own? That is so much greater, so much better of a level of giving. Then we get to level number 4, and now we're up to the higher levels of giving. In the higher levels of giving, care is taken to make sure that the recipient retains their dignity. This is done by ensuring confidentiality. So in level number 4, the recipient knows who is giving it, but the giver does not know who the money is going to. This category is similar to what the sage of Chana ben Chilai used to do, where in times of famine he would put food outside of his home and people could come and just take. And that way the people who were receiving the food knew where it was coming from, but the donor didn't know where it was going. So the donor still retained humility and there was some saving face, but the recipients still felt beholden to the donor. The Rambam, when he's giving his different levels, explains that this level is similar to the practice in the time of the Talmud, where sages would walk with a bag of coins behind their back. That way, people in need could take those coins without the donors ever knowing where the money went. So in that case, there was still saving some face, but there was still a feeling of being beholden. Then we get to level number 3. In level 3, the giver knows who the recipient is, but the recipient doesn't know who the giver is. So the recipient has no idea where the money is coming from, so he never needs to feel a sense of insecurity that somebody's going to hold something over him because he has no idea who the giver is. The Talmud records a story of Mar Ukva, who used to daily give money to someone who he knew was in need, and he would leave a bag of coins by this family's doorstep. And the family, day after day, kept on seeing this money appearing out of nowhere, and they wanted to know where it was coming from. So they waited to see who that person was who was leaving the money every day. And one day they came close. Mar Ukva had just put the money down, and they opened the door and quickly chased after him to see who it was. They kept on running and running until they were getting closer. And it was at that point that Mar Ukva and his wife jumped into a furnace, and they figured to themselves, better to lose their lives than to embarrass the person by letting them see who was giving them money. Now that might have been an extreme example, but it's important that we remain anonymous when giving to individuals so that they won't feel a sense of owing us, a sense of insecurity. Now that's not to say that all gifts should be given anonymously, especially when they're given to organizations. Often when a person gives a gift and they make a donation to an organization, if they choose to remain anonymous, it won't inspire people to give in the same way. Versus a person who is willing to let their name be attached to that gift, when people see that this person is giving money to this organization, they're more willing to chip in and participate in the fundraising as well. So this does not apply in all cases. This is specifically talking about when you're giving to an individual and you want to ensure that the individual doesn't feel bad receiving the gift. Now we get to level number 2. In level number 2, the identity of the giver and the identity of the recipient stay anonymous. In this case, the person receiving the money never knows where it comes from, and the person donating the money doesn't know where it's going. This is best accomplished by donating to a discretionary fund, to some sort of fund which every Jewish community in the world has, where a person is able to give anonymously and the recipients are able to receive it without knowing where it came from. In this case, everyone's identity stays hidden. So a person never feels bad receiving because they don't have anybody holding anything above their heads because they don't know who those people are. And the person giving the money doesn't feel any sense of superiority because they don't know where the money's going. This only works, and the Rambam even goes out of his way to explain that this only works if you trust the person you're giving the money to, if you trust the organization that's handing out the funds, or you trust the person who is being entrusted with those funds to make sure that they are doing their research, that they're giving all the money properly. So then this is an excellent way to give charity. And then we get to level number 1. Level number 1 is where I give a person not when they need the charity, but I prevent them from getting to a point where they need the help. Level number 1 is accomplished when I give a person a loan, when I give a person a job opportunity. I give a person a way to make money while keeping their self-esteem intact. And then we arrive at the highest level of giving. The greatest form of giving, says the Rambam, is giving a person before they need charity. It's giving a person the financial independence to do things on their own. One of the most basic human needs is the ability to feel needed, to feel capable. And when I give somebody a loan, I make an investment. I give someone a job or a business opportunity. I make an introduction. I give someone advice. I allow that person the dignity and self-respect to feel like they're doing it on their own.